On the face of it, a game with only invisible enemies sounds like a bit of a gimmick, but I think for a horror game specifically it feels more natural than other genres. It's interesting how that works. Anyway, I wanted to learn how to use Godot, and I had this simple idea for a horror game. Basically, you have to survive in a small house against waves of invisible monsters. I'm a big fan of survival horror, so I wanted the player to have a gun and fight back, but I still somehow needed them to feel vulnerable. So I tried to come up with different ways to force a player into danger. I ended up with mechanics that rely on affecting what the player can hear and how well they can see the enemies. You'll get what I mean later. So the goal of each level is to fix every open doorway so monsters can't get in anymore. Meanwhile, you've got to survive against the ones that already have. Instead of these guys having a distortion effect or like dust particles where they step, the way you tell where they are with these physics objects. You can hear them walking, but bumping into shit is the way of knowing for sure where they are. Here's where it gets fucked up. To make bullets and healing items, if you need them, you have to permanently delete these objects by feeding them into these machines that make hearing enemies impossible. So you can see the problem here. The more bullets you make, the more wiggle room you have with fighting, but you might be in more danger actually because you've left yourself wide open. And while you're making things, you can't hear anything either. So yeah, that's the elevator pitch. If you think you'd like it, go play it now because I'm going to spoil the absolute shit out of it. It's free on my itch page, you don't have to download it, but the desktop version looks better and runs better. You'll need a mouse and keyboard too, fucking obviously. I talked a bit about fixing doorways before, so here's a good look at that. There's 3 in the level, and I purposely put the machines right next to them so it's easier for monsters to get you. During development, the house was way bigger than it ended up being. I wanted to create a scenario where a player would know something's inside, but they couldn't work out where it was. I imagine someone panicking, trying not to run straight into a monster they couldn't see. You might be able to guess, but in practice I could very easily kite enemies around just by running in a big circle. So while I think the idea could work in a different game, I had to make the house smaller to make it actually possible to lose. Thinking about it now, this idea could probably work if there were like no doorways to begin with and the monsters teleported in or something. Anyway, I was able to get the feeling I wanted with the smaller room, so it ended up working out. I realised pretty late, honestly, how important sound was for the whole mood of the game. Like, I know I said before that sound was a gameplay mechanic and all that, but I just mean for the moment to moment where nothing's really happening. It made a huge impact. I think the reverb and the delay effects I put on the sounds really sell the feel of this place. Another thing that really brings it all together is the green fog in the room, which sadly doesn't exist on the browser version. It's not a huge downgrade, but I just think it looks better when it's there. For those curious, it's a volumetric fog volume, which just isn't supported on the web version's renderer. And for those extra curious, Google gay porn. Another thing I had to change during development was how items are given to the player. During development, you'd start each level with a pile of objects that is supposed to last the whole level. But again, playing my own game, trying to figure out what was fun, you'd need fuckloads of items for the amount of enemies I throw at you. Remember, you need enough bullets to possibly kill every enemy, enough to heal if you take damage, enough to put on the ground to actually see enemies, and extra for inevitable chokes. So yeah, you'd end up starting later levels with a massive pile of items, and in my personal opinion, all potential for horror is lost when this is what's in front of you. The fix for this is obvious, just pace out the item spawns and only give the player so many at a time. The way I did this in my game is by having them fall out this hole in the ceiling. The wood you use to fix up doors also comes out this hole too. I actually don't remember which came first, me or your mum. The wood is what you need to actually be able to fix doorways. It's set up so one of these has enough planks to block one doorway, but you can spread it out as much as you like. When you've blocked all the doorways, you can sleep to go to the next level. The first 2 or 3 levels teach you how to actually play the game. I try not to overwhelm people with too much info all at once, because I know some people kind of shut down mentally when there are words on screen. The tutorials are pretty quick, so you can easily speedrun them if you do happen to die. I also have these bits of text before each level that kind of relate to what's going to happen and what's going on. Not a whole lot of story in this game though, I just wanted to focus on gameplay for this one. If you remember, you can use the machines to turn items into ammo and health. That's one of the main gameplay mechanics here. Using them also fucks with the audio for a bit, making it impossible to hear enemies. Like, not only are they loud on their own, but I straight up turn enemy sounds off when any machine is on. I make sure to spell this out to players. In fact, you only get the machines on the 2nd level onwards, and the whole level is just about learning to use them. I try to make it obvious in this level that these machines will have a significant gameplay impact. It's simple stuff, but I color coded them too. So the yellow one makes ammo, which is yellow, and the green one makes health items, which have this green plus on them. The green one also takes a bit longer to process items, you know, for balancing and such. While I was playing the game, I felt like it was too quiet most of the time, like when nothing's really attacking you and it's just you on your own. I understand that you need those quieter moments to contrast when something's actually happening, but to me, complete silence stops being creepy if it goes on too long. I was also thinking about the problem with, like, if you hear a sound and it wasn't you that made it, it's definitely got to be an enemy. So I was thinking, how can I add some uncertainty to this? So every so often, an ambient sound will play or a random event will occur. The sounds and events should break up the routine and muddy the waters a bit on what's actually a threat or not, and also kind of fuck with the player mentally. So kill 2 rocks or whatever. Players aren't ever told about either of these, so it makes the rules of this game seem more vague than they actually are. Which I think adds a level of fear to the game that's all mental, rather than being grounded in the rules and mechanics. Anyway, since I've told you that there are random events that don't do anything gameplay wise, here's what some of them look like. The light can flicker or move around, this shadow thing can appear behind you, and this can happen. The last one's my favourite, it's so cool. Each piece of the wall will only change when you're not looking, so it triggers and people just happen to turn around and go, whoa, what the fuck? I've played a few games where enemies turn invisible, but you can still kinda see them because they have something like this distortion effect. This is obviously because those games have invisibility as a small part of a larger gameplay experience, and the focus is on some other aspect of gameplay. To me though, in a horror game solely about invisible monsters, they'd be way scarier if they were completely invisible, so I went with that idea. You do get to see them when you actually manage to hurt one though. At first this was just for the player's benefit, some feedback you did something right, but it evolved a little bit when I was testing it out. You see, I'd made a mistake when setting up the monster's material and it made all the enemies become visible when only one was hurt. I ended up keeping it as a feature just for the basic enemy because I liked the feeling it gave, like it's almost like a classic horror movie bit. So yeah, one of those classic glitches that became features type moment. You know, like the creeper from Minecraft or the child labour black market in Roblox. The monster's designs went through a few iterations, I really didn't know what I wanted to begin with. They started off as like shadow things and then these jittery silhouettes before ending up as these rusty humanoid guys. I was really not confident in my ability to animate like anything, which was one of the reasons why they changed so much. In hindsight, I'm thinking I should have done a bit of prep work animating things for practice and coming up with more unique designs. Looking back, it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to have some crazy looking monster you're only allowed to see for a split second. Although, I am happy with what I ended up with, and what I ended up with were these guys. The normal ones I've talked a bit about already. They move slowly, and if you hit one, you get to see all the other normal ones too. They also run away the first time you hit them. They do this to sorta ease you into the game's combat loop. They really are designed only to be intimidating when you first start playing the game and you don't know what's going on. Watching my friends play, they usually get the hang of it pretty quickly. It's only when I send out multiple enemies at once that these guys become an actual threat. Next, I wanted an enemy that wouldn't just walk at a consistent pace towards you, so I made the runner. This guy moves way faster, but will stop every so often for a few seconds. I like the idea that a monster would kind of fuck with you a bit by doing this, cause think about it, when it's not moving, it's not making any noise or bumping into things. so it's a bit harder to pinpoint where it is exactly. This guy also runs towards you when he's hurt, not away from you, so he's a bit of a priority target. To continue the spirit of enemies that just fuck with you, the next guy I made is the Crawler. So these ones are actually in your room the whole time, but you have no idea. They only wake up if you hurt them or you fixed all the doorways. I got the idea for these because I was trying to figure out what had happened if you fixed every doorway but a monster was still inside. I figured you should have to kill it because it would make more sense. So I thought it'd be scary if, unbeknownst to the player, there was someone inside the whole time, tucked away in a corner or something. Next, I needed something to stop players from just leaving their house to get away from monsters. Actually, a pretty big design flaw now I think about it. So this next monster was the solution. It doesn't really do anything crazy, it just has more health than you have bullets, it's faster than your sprinting speed, and it kills you in one hit. I do make it super obvious you shouldn't be trying to leave, so there really is no risk of this thing appearing if you're just playing normally. The boss I'll talk about later because he's a bit different, he has his own level and shit. And by later I mean now. I think the final boss of a horror game is prime time to let the game be a bit more action focused. I think it can be satisfying to finally be able to let loose after being asked to conserve resources as much as possible. While the final boss is a bit more action focused, I still tried to make it panic inducing. Also, I know we're like most of the way through the video, but if you want to play the rest unspoiled, now's your last chance. I won't do anything weird while you're gone. I gave this last level a little build up. Right off the bat, things are different. The doorway's already fixed and the machines are gone. The only thing you can do is stand under the hole in the ceiling. I'm expecting most people would think they're going up, only for the floor under them to sink. Yeah, so anyway, you get locked into a 1v1 against the final boss. The basic rules of the game are still the same. You've got to make items out of objects and try and figure out where this new threat is coming from. Although sound plays a different role here. So I thought it'd be a little bullshit if the final boss, who might be a bit bigger than you'd expect, went silent when a machine was on like other enemies. I get a gut feeling that he's just too big for it to make sense logically. So to keep the mechanics of gameplay kinda consistent, I make the boss just move faster when any sound is made. Not just machines like objects too. Again, like the other tutorials, I spell this out pretty clearly. It's almost set up like a joke now that I think about it. You get the message that something will move faster when a sound is made, then to mess with you a bit later you get all those objects falling down like you saw before. The boss itself is like this spider kind of guy. I animated him with some code as opposed to doing it myself like with the other characters. I don't think it looks as good as something hand animated, but it does save me a shitload of time and effort. He can just move around and his legs will figure themselves out on their own. He can also walk over machines, no problem. The way the fight goes is that he gives you a bit of time to make bullets and whatnot before heading straight for you. Shoot him enough and he'll back off for a bit and give you a chance to make more shit. If you can kill him, your bed appears in the basement. When you sleep in it, you get one last cutscene and that's it. You've beaten the game. The main menu also plays a different track at first. And yeah, that's about it. That was my little journey into making another horror game. It's by no means perfect, but I am proud of what I accomplished. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of thoughts about what I'd do if I made this again, or a second one or something. On reflection, I think the biggest thing I'd change is how the doors are fixed. A lot of the time spent in this game is just holding down a button, effectively waiting for a bar to fill up. It accomplishes the goal I had of making the player vulnerable when they're trying to face danger, but I think with a bit more thought, something better could be in its place. I think half the problem is that there's just not a lot of skill involved in fixing a doorway. I think if there was some skill to it, it wouldn't just be about picking the right time, you'd be relying on your own skills, which I think would be a more satisfying experience. It could also lead to some naturally scary moments, like when a player fumbles and messes up or something. The interior is also a little sparse. It kinda helps in the sense that you hopefully don't get confused on what is and isn't a factor in gameplay, but I think visually it's a little boring. Some random ideas to fix this would be something like dress the room up with other objects and have those be interactable and be able to be turned into items. Have some more unique events going on with the walls or something, and maybe some more persistent things like bullet casings or blood splats from the enemies. I think those would add a level of detail that's unique to each player's experience. Another thing that could be better are the enemy designs. Again, I'm happy with how they turned out, but they really aren't anything special. Their designs don't really do anything interesting with the idea of being invisible, and they don't really represent anything either. Again, I really didn't know what I wanted when I started, so if I had to do it again, I'd do a bit more research and really try to come up with designs that fit the idea better and are more interesting for a creature you don't get to see often. Right, time to wrap this up. If you still want to play it, you can get the game on my itch page. You don't have to download it, but the game runs better if you do. If you do end up playing it, let me know what you thought. I'll probably be making more stuff at some point in the future. You know what to do if you want to see that. Until then, take it easy.